Be less white. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm, of course, Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp dealing you a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. Today, we're going to talk about Coca Cola again. What is it with these people? And you might be a little bit surprised at my take on this, at least based on the most current story coming out that made this story kind of resurface. Real quick, guys, if you don't mind, check out my friends Gideon Optics. When you're behind your rifle, crappy glass can cost you more than just a missed shot. That's why I run Gideon Optics. Crystal clear clarity, rock solid durability, and trust me, these are some rugged optics. Every Gideon optic is built for shooters who don't settle. They're built to perform, built to last, and they are rugged. And right now you can get yours for less. Just head over to GideonOptics.com and use my code FTATF at checkout for immediate savings. Take your shot with the optics built for freedom-loving Americans. Gideon Optics. Precision you can depend on. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this story or not yet. It popped up on X this morning. But it appears that, allegedly, a white gentleman by the name of David in the Baltimore, Maryland area applied for a sales job for Coca Cola. Again, in that Baltimore, Maryland area. And I assume the guy's name was David. Again, I'm making assumptions that the story that's being reported is actually factual. This first post right here appears to be from Coca Cola responding back to David having received his application. Hi, David. Your application for the sales account manager at 4200 Baltimore, Maryland, Coca Cola Consolidated is in our hands. We're reviewing your qualifications now and we'll reach out if we see a great match. Thanks for your interest in joining our team where you can be inspired and be developed. Coca Cola Consolidated. So here's the John Deere letter. Hi, David. Thanks for your interest in the sales account manager position at Coca Cola Consolidated. After careful review, we've moved forward with candidates whose qualifications better align with our current needs. We hope you'll bubble up for other opportunities with us soon. Coca Cola Consolidated. Now, the implication in the story in all of this is that this guy, David, is white. David is kind of a white name, kind of like Gary. So I don't think this is probably too far off that David is a white gentleman. Also in that first application, they say that David mentioned that his experience was 20 years of experience at the time. So that's, you got to make sure we include that, right? So 20 years of experience in David. Well, after the rejection letter, David decided to resend his application in with a more ethnic name and less experience. Now, it's important, I'm trying to be fair here, it's important that we note two changes to the application. I think the headline grabbing story is that he changed his name from David, a resoundingly white sounding name, to a much darker sounding name in Deshaun. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that he also changed his experience level from 20 years to 5 years. This response from Coca Cola to Deshaun says, Consolidated is in our hands, talking about the application. We're reviewing your qualifications now. We'll reach out, see if it's a great match. Thank you for your interest. And then the follow-up, just like David got, but at this time, it was not a John Deere letter. Hi, Deshaun. We've reviewed your application for the sales account manager at 4200 Baltimore, Maryland, Coca Cola Consolidated. If your background aligns with our current needs, our talent acquisition team will be in touch soon about next steps. Thanks for your interest. And then finally, hey, Deshaun, I'm Fizz, the virtual scheduling assistant for Coca Cola Consolidated. We're ready to schedule your 30-minute in-person interview. A little bit of a change from what David received. Now, again, me being the truth pimp and me being as ultimately as fair as I can be on everything, I got to be honest here. My first inclination after reading this was not to look at Coca Cola and say, oh, they did something bad. They're only hiring or willing to interview Deshaun. Might be surprised when they find David walk in as white as Casper the Ghost instead of Deshaun. But I'm not so fast to say that it was a race-related issue with Deshaun and David, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not totally letting Coca Cola off the hook at this point. I'm just giving you my reasons for this, again, out of fairness. The fact that they changed that experience level from 20 to 5, that's a big deal. That is a bit, and I'll tell you why. I'm not saying it's a good deal, and I'm not saying it's a good choice. I'm telling you, I kind of understand how younger supervisors and management function today. A lot of them were very not smart. Yeah, they're tech savvy. They can rip through apps, do stuff that we don't know about, shortcuts on their phones, on computers, all that kind of stuff. Still not very smart. They're efficient and proficient with electronics and modern technology. Dumber than shit, though. So Deshaun here could have left his name as David and still gotten the same reply. That's my point here. I'm trying to show you that it could be, and I'm going to get to why I'm not sold on this, but it could be that Coca Cola was more interested in the person with less experience rather than the person with the more ethnic looking name of Deshaun. The reason why is because I can tell you from experience, and I don't want to give too much away, but I have a person who's very close to me who has a younger supervisor, and this person is closer to my age, who I'm speaking of. This person has been in this same company or with this same company for over 25 years. So this person is smarter than most of the people there. Well, over time, when this person took this job, they had older management at the time that they learned from. That older management has since retired. This is the old guard, the old school management, the ways that we kind of all grew up with. Now it's totally flipped. That management level in that same company now might have probably a 30 to 40 year swing in the opposite direction. Somebody in their 30s now versus somebody who was in their 50s and 60s. Big difference in management style, right? I mean, you have a multitude of changes that have taken place, and not all good. We've seen a lessening and a weakening of the workforce as far as dumbing it down. We see the public school system has dumbed down most of the people out there. I mean, was it today? I think 40% of people that graduate have an 8th grade reading level. So, I mean, clearly we are spitting out dumber and dumber and dumber people on a regular basis. So every year that goes by, the graduates are becoming dumber. They're also dumbing down the curriculums in college. I know this for a fact. I know an engineer who they used to have to, and you engineers out there who are probably 40-ish and above will recognize this. Engineers used to have to memorize all of their formulas in college. And those formulas and the memorization of those formulas and the application of those formulas in engineering, those were all part of your testing and all part of your finals. You had to know these things, you had to memorize them and apply them in your finals in order to pass and become an engineer. You don't have to do that anymore. That's right. You don't have to memorize that stuff because they've come to the conclusion that everyone's going to cheat anyway with smartphones and even the scientific calculators that started to come out probably in the mid to late 90s. So they come to the realization that you're going to cheat. So why should we make you memorize these equations and formulas if you're just going to cheat anyway? So we're just going to give them to you. So now they don't have to memorize them. And in many cases, if you don't memorize them, it's probably a little hard to apply them. Still need engineers, so we got to pass somebody. You can't fail everybody in the engineering curriculum. And that's not to say that every engineer is dumb, but I've seen some that are dumb, more recent ones. So we've seen the dumbing down of not only public school and high school people graduating from high school. And again, a lot of them should not be graduating. Remember, they've also lowered the grading scale. I think I saw the other day what was emphatically an F or a U, depending on what kind of school you went to, now could be a C because I remember thinking, how can all these dummies graduate with 4 point? Because I've seen dumb people with 4.0 grade point averages. I'm like, there's no way. Well, it's because you can still get an A if you score all the way down into the low 80s. Anything in the 80s was a B whenever I was in school. Now you can make an 81 or 82, and that's still an A. That might have been a C in some of the classes that I was in, and now it's still an A. That's how they keep a 4.0. So we're graduating dumber people from high school. We're graduating dumber people from college. Now these people eventually are going to move into management, right? You think management wants to have somebody smarter and more successful, more accomplished than them? No, I don't think they do. And I think that more of what we're looking at here with this Coca Cola hiring issue with this applicant, I think they wanted Deshaun because Deshaun was probably coming in as a dummy, not because he was black, because he had less experience. They wanted somebody they could control more, somebody that would not shine them or outshine them. Because let's face it, that management person is just as wary about that next guy coming in to supplant them, push them out of the job. You think they want a 20-year veteran coming in there that's probably pretty darn good at their job, knows all the ins and the outs, the shortcuts, the best way to do things? Probably not. So that hiring person might have been the one who said, I don't want that 20-year guy. He's going to show me up. I want that 5-year dummy. And then he justifies that to his own management team because, oh, guess what? I can get them cheaper. Hey, they got 5 years of experience. That's a lot better than 0. And 5 is a lot cheaper than 20. So it makes sense from a management standpoint to bring that person in, at least in that person's eyes. Again, a person that they can keep down below them, keep them kind of under their thumb. They don't want David at 20 years. They want Deshaun at 5. So in my opinion, that's probably more of a deciding factor because of dumb management wanting to keep somebody dumber than them on their payroll and someone they can control rather than somebody that'll probably come in there and go straight to the top. I think that's why. Now, I'll tell you another reason why. And again, I'm being fair here, trying to be a fair devil's advocate. This is a management job, a sales type job in Baltimore, Maryland. Maybe this is where race came into play. Does a white David really, in sales, really draw and really get you the right appeal in these neighborhoods of Baltimore, Maryland, where it's predominantly black? Just be honest here. Who's going to appeal quicker and get along faster with people in these little mom and pops and all these little shops and on the streets of Baltimore? Deshaun or David? Probably Deshaun. Now, that's all being devil's advocate and fair to Coca-Cola up to this point. Now I'm going to tell you what could easily be the other side of it. It very well could be because Deshaun is presumed to be black and David was white. Because Coca-Cola has a history of this. Coca-Cola doesn't like whitey. Coca-Cola back in 2021 was slammed for diversity training that urged workers to be less white. You'll probably remember this because it was everywhere at the time. This was a leak that got out on an internal, let's just call it a training course, that some idiot put out from Coca-Cola stating confronting racism, understanding what it means to be white, challenging what it means to be racist. So my guess is that this little presentation was probably written by a fat, greasy white chick who nobody would look at. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, somebody that is just repulsive, bays very little, probably somebody that no one would even take a look at. So she's mad. She's angry. And the only thing she knows to do is to lash out at people who frown on her, not because she's white, because she's a slob. So she has to just say that everybody else is bad and try to paint them all with a bad, broad brush. In the same presentation, this person stated in the U.S. and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they are inherently superior because they are white. I must have missed that. That must have been the email that I missed on the day I was out. Or the Fortune 500 company that I was a regional manager at must have talked about this stuff on a day that I wasn't there. Because I've never been part of, heard about, seen, even had a whisper of some secret club where white people were socialized to feel that we are inherently superior because we are white. Now, whenever you work less than me, do less than me, you're lazier than me, I do feel superior to you. But I think it comes from in here, not from here, right? It's here and here. It's got nothing to do with skin color. But if that makes you feel better about yourself and your failures, rock on. They also say that research shows that by age 3 to 4, children understand that it is better to be white. Again, I must have missed that one. Now, I didn't go to pre-K, but I did go to a little bit of nursery school back in the day, and that wasn't part of our curriculum. We were busy counting, looking at colors, learning our ABCs, but I missed the how to be a racist class that day. Now, this is where it goes on to, I think, low-key point out that they want dummies and they want people who do not work hard at Coca Cola, because this is from that same slideshow. To be less white is to be less oppressive. So we're taught automatically to be oppressive. Coca Cola wants you to be a little less oppressive. Be less arrogant. Be less certain. So be more aloof. Appear to be more dumb. Don't be so sure of yourself whenever you're right, like I usually am. At least fake being dumb. Fake like you don't know the answer. Be less certain. Be less defensive. When we call you a racist, just accept it. Because remember, at age 3 and 4, you were taught to be racist. So be less defensive about that. If you miss that class, be less defensive about it, just accept it. Be less ignorant. Well, that's kind of weird because I'm ignorant of the class that I was supposed to have taken when I was 3 or 4 years old that taught me that I was better than everybody else. So I guess I kind of am ignorant of that because I was never educated that I'm better than you. Be more humble. Really? So no more dancing in the end zone. No more slamming the basketball for me. I need to be more humble. I'm going to remember that. I'm not going to spike the football the next time I make an 80-yard touchdown run. Listen. Huh? Believe. Huh? Break with apathy. I'm not even going to touch that one. Break with white solidarity. So here we go again on this type of stuff. Black solidarity, perfectly fine. White solidarity, bad. Look, I'm not going to apologize for being white. I'm also not going to accept some kind of made-up guilt because I am white. I'm certainly not going to accept a completely different set of rules that you want to play by and you expect me to play by. In closing, they just want you to try to be less white. So this is why I think that maybe Coca-Cola has a little bit of a race issue. Maybe the David and Deshaun issue, it could be about race. I still stand by what I said earlier, that it points to dumber management wanting dumber employees to work for them. I mean, I truly feel that. And honestly, guys, clearly the leadership at Coca-Cola is either dumb or so woke that they made themselves dumb. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, first of all, I don't care what paper you have hanging on your wall that you paid for to say how smart you are. It doesn't mean anything. There are plumbers that I know of that are smarter than most people that I know of that have degrees. They just chose a different field. So don't think that by pointing to a framed piece of paper hanging on your wall, that somehow impresses me. It makes me think that, oh, they must be smarter than everybody else. I've never believed that. Never. Some of the dumbest people I know have degrees. Some of the smartest people I know didn't step foot in a college or university. But Coca-Cola is clearly led by people who are not the top of the heap. It seems that the DEI hires over the course of time at Coca-Cola has resulted in them getting dumber and dumber and dumber. So like we spoke of the high schools earlier and the colleges, now this is shifting to corporations, because where else are these people going? They're going to these corporations. So think about this. This is a big snowball that's winding up at the doorstep of Coca-Cola. Dumber schools, because of the Department of Education doing an absolutely horrible job. Dumber teachers, dumber students. All of that spits out dumb students. Dumber students go on to college, become indoctrinated and dumb. They graduate, and eventually there's a change of the guard at these corporations. Dumber management. Dumber management recognizes, because they are slightly smarter than some of the people there, they recognize their shortcomings and how dumb they are. What better way to keep dumb people below you when you yourself are kind of dumb? Hire dumber people than you. So these management staff, although they have really nice, colorful pieces of paper hanging on their walls saying how smart they are and what they purchased over a 4 to 6 year time, they are dumb. They are dumb people. And they are quietly hiring the dumber people so they don't lose their jobs or get pushed out. So what's happening is we are seeing a dumbing down of corporate America. This is also partly why somebody like Elon Musk comes along and seems like the smartest person that we've ever seen in our entire lifetime. While he may very well be the smartest person you will ever see in your own lifetime, he might not be as smart as you think. He's just so much smarter than all these other dummies out there that these college institutions are spitting out. Because he can speak. He can put together complete sentences. He doesn't regurgitate this stupid DEI crap. And that's the other thing. That's what Coca Cola gets. Whenever they push for DEI, not only are you getting dumber, but you are actually weeding out some of your better candidates out there because you have disqualified them from even applying. So it's not to say that white David is smarter than black Deshaun, but whenever you're looking for black Deshaun, white David might be smarter than black Deshaun. But you disqualified white David, whether it was indirectly or directly, and I think the Department of Justice, because this could be a civil rights violation, but whether you did that on purpose or not doesn't matter. The fact is, you, because of your hiring practices, going for the person that you're trying to check a box and fill a quota for, automatically makes you overlook people out there that might have made your company stronger. And a stronger management team would have made sure that some stupid presentation like this that Coca-Cola put out would have never made it to the first eyeball for an employee at Coca-Cola to have to suffer through. This kind of stuff fires me up. If it fires you up, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down below. Am I wrong about my take on this? I'm just curious what you guys think, and I'm genuinely curious. Again, I can see both sides of it. I can see where this person, David, likely thought that by changing my name, had he changed just his name to Deshaun, and then they still chose him with that 20-year experience level that he put in there, then I would say this was definitely all about race and all about DEI. But the fact that he changed both and lowered that experience level from 20 to 5, it keeps a question mark out there because, again, two ways to look at it. A legitimate way that a company might want to look at it, if you didn't have a DEI hire looking at this, they could have looked at this and said, 20 years, we probably can't afford the guy. 20 years, overqualified. We don't need that. We're looking for a frontline person. We're not looking for top-level management. Don't need 20 years. I can get 5 for a cheaper price. So that's where you could see Coca-Cola legitimately making that kind of decision. But because they have a history of being racist, dumb, and DEI focused, you have to know that it's probably a DEI hire manager who's likely looking either for a DEI hire or they're looking for somebody dumber than them so that they can remain their boss ahead of them and not risk losing their job, because deep down inside, they know that as a DEI hire, they suck at their job. Don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a book to educate yourself and to educate the idiots out there who can't think for themselves regarding mass shootings, go to damnliars.net. Again, damnliars.net, and get my brand new book, Damn Liars.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.